All right, today we're going to dive into a playbook that's all about one thing: building products that people will actually want to buy and use. The whole thing comes from the Customer-Driven Playbook by Travis Lowdermilk, and it's a masterclass in turning those risky internal assumptions into real-world success.
But first, to really get why this playbook is so critical, we have to start with a story. A big, expensive, cautionary tale. Okay, take a look at this. This is the Pontiac Aztek. Back in 2000, General Motors poured $1 billion into designing and marketing this car. They were convinced it was this super innovative vehicle for a young, active crowd. But it ended up being one of the biggest automotive flops in history. Seriously.
So what on earth happened? I mean, it's not like GM was just guessing. They did market research, they held focus groups, but they fell into a trap that is so easy to fall into. They fell in love with their own ideas. They saw the signals that customers weren't into it, but they just kept going. It was a complete and total misalignment with reality.
And this, right here, is the perfect example of the danger of unchecked assumptions. When we build stuff based on what we think people want, you know what we get? We get missed opportunities, a bunch of features nobody asked for, and just a mountain of wasted time, money, and effort. Worst of all, it gives you this false sense of security. You think you're on the right track when you're actually driving straight for a cliff.
So, how do we stop ourselves from building our own personal Aztek? Well, Lowdermilk argues that it all starts with a huge shift in mindset. It starts by acknowledging who's really in charge. It's time to meet your new boss. And that new boss is the customer. Now, we throw around the word user all the time, right? But the book makes this incredibly important distinction. We need to think of them as customers, people who actively choose a product. See, a user can be passive, just kind of interacting with something. But a customer is an active decision maker. Just changing that one word forces you to stop thinking only about usability and start focusing on what really matters: their deep-seated motivations, their goals, and their desires.
You know, Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, he just nailed it with his quote. He said, "There is only one boss, the customer, and he can fire everybody in the company simply by spending his money somewhere else." That's the ultimate truth, isn't it? The customer holds all the cards.
Okay, so we've got the right mindset. The customer is the boss. Got it. But how do you actually put that philosophy into practice? Well, that brings us to the Playbook's 4-stage framework.
This is the big one, right? The billion-dollar question. How do you actually, tangibly put the customer in charge and make sure you're not building the next Aztek? It's not enough to just have a good attitude. You need a plan. And that plan is called the Hypothesis Progression Framework, or HPF for short. Now, don't let the fancy name intimidate you. Just think of it like a roadmap for getting to a great product. It's a structured way to turn all your team's assumptions into testable hypotheses before you waste a ton of time and money building the wrong thing.
This HPF roadmap has 4 key stops, and each one has a fundamental question you have to answer. Stage 1, customer. Who are these people, really, and what makes them tick? Stage 2, problem. What are the real challenges and frustrations they're dealing with? Stage 3, concept. Okay, does our big idea for a solution actually have any value to them? And finally, stage 4, feature. Is the thing we ultimately built easy and, satisfying to use? And here's the kicker. You can't skip a stage. You have to answer each question in order before you're allowed to move on.
Now, a roadmap is great, but it's totally useless if you don't have a way to actually move along it, right? You need a vehicle. That's where the playbook introduces what it calls a rhythm of learning.
So, what does this actually look like day to day? How do you move your team through that 4-stage roadmap? You need an engine to power you forward.
And that engine is the Customer-Driven Cadence. It's a really simple, repeatable cycle that you run at every single stage of the framework. It's got 3 steps. First, formulating. You turn your guesses into clear, testable statements. Second, experimenting. You get out of the office and actually test those ideas with real customers. And third, sense-making. You look at what you learned and figure out what to do next.
Let's pause on that third step, sense-making, because it is absolutely critical. This isn't just about crunching numbers. The book defines it as turning all that raw data you collected into a compelling story that inspires your team to take action. It's about building empathy, finding meaning, and using that to make way better decisions.
All right, let's bring this all home now and see how all these pieces, the mindset, the framework, the rhythm, connect to actually making a product.
So the book gets super practical here. It gives teams these specific playbooks or sets of tools for each of those 4 stages. For the customer stage, you do customer visits to build empathy. For the problem stage, you run problem interviews to really dig into their pain points. At the concept stage, you do concept value tests. And then finally, at the feature stage, you do the classic usability studies. Each stage has the right tool for the job.
And this brings us to one of the most powerful, mind-bending ideas in the entire book. An invalidated hypothesis is just as valuable as a validated one. This requires a huge mental shift. Finding out your brilliant idea is totally wrong isn't a failure, it's a victory. It means you learned something vital, cheaply and early, before you spend $1 billion building the next Pontiac Aztek.
So that's really the heart of the playbook. It's all about moving from this blind faith we have in our own ideas to a structured, repeatable process of learning from customers. And that really just leaves one final, provocative question for you to take back to your own work. Which of your assumptions will you test first?